2,000 years ago, beneath a ruthless, unforgiving sun, a glorious empire took its final breath. The shifting sands of the Sahara whispered the forgotten names of once mighty kings. Here, in the cradle of civilization, time itself seemed to bend to the will of gods. But to understand the shadows of its twilight, we must look back to the blinding light of its dawn. Imagine a world where immortality wasn't just a dream, but a promise, carved in stone, a sweeping golden landscape where the line between the mortal and the divine simply vanished. This was ancient Egypt, a realm of staggering beauty and terrifying power. And its beating heart, cutting through the barren desert, was a river of unimaginable scale. The Nile, a dark, serpentine ribbon, bringing life to a landscape of death. Every year, like a breath from the gods, the waters rose, bleeding rich, black soil onto the earth. They called it Kemet, the Black Land, a miraculous oasis born from seasonal floods. Along these verdant banks, millions of souls lived, loved, and labored under the vast, watchful sky. Farmers worked the muddy fields, their backs bent, harvesting wheat and barley to feed an empire. Children played in the shallow reeds, while hunters cast their nets for the river's hidden bounty. Massive wooden barges, drifting silently on the current, carried enormous stones and untold riches. But the Nile was not merely a source of water. It was the ultimate sacred highway. It connected the poorest mud brick villages to the towering, gilded gates of the capital cities. Life here was a fragile dance, a balance of order, known to the ancients as Ma'at. And to maintain this delicate harmony, the people looked up to a singular, awe-inspiring figure, a ruler who held the sky above the earth, the ultimate bridge between man and the cosmos. The pharaoh was no mere king. He was a living god, breathing the air of mortals, crowned in gold and lapis lazuli. His voice was absolute law, his wrath an inescapable storm. When he raised his scepter, armies marched, cities rose, and the very earth seemed to tremble. He was the earthly incarnation of Horus, the falcon god, destined to conquer chaos. In the grand palaces of Thebes and Memphis, incense burned thick, masking the scent of fear and reverence. Priests in leopard skins chanted ancient hymns as the sovereign enacted rituals to keep the sun burning. His power was absolute, yet weighed down by an impossible eternal burden. For the pharaoh was expected to conquer not only the physical world, but death itself. He needed to transcend mortality to guide his people from the darkness of the underworld. To achieve this impossible feat, he required a vessel, an anchor to the waking world, an architectural triumph, so massive, so perfect, it would challenge the very limits of human ambition. Rising from the searing desert, they built mountains of limestone, reflecting the blinding rays of Ra, monuments that defied logic. Built not with magic, but with sweat, blood, and brilliant engineering. These were the Great Pyramids, humanity's ultimate defiant roar against the silence of extinction. Standing at the base of Giza, looking up at millions of tons of perfectly cut stone, the mind falters. Over 2 million blocks, hauled under a blistering sun by armies of devoted, hardened workers. The sheer scale is dizzying, a geometric miracle, aligned flawlessly with the distant, wandering stars. Inside these silent, lightless tombs lay an intricate maze of false corridors and hidden chambers, designed to protect the pharaoh's physical shell from the greed of desperate, cunning tomb robbers. Deep within the earth, encased in a sarcophagus of solid granite, the God King awaited his journey. The walls were inscribed with deeply carved magical spells, a roadmap through the terrors of the beyond. But the pyramids were just the beginning of Egypt's monumental, breathtaking obsession with stone. Colossal temples, like Karnak and Luxor, stretched their massive pillars toward the endless heavens. Statues of unimaginable size stared blankly out into the desert, guarding the secrets of the dead. Obelisks, carved from single pieces of rock, pierced the sky, capturing the first light of dawn. Everywhere you looked, the physical world was heavily stamped with the undeniable mark of eternity. Yet, beneath this overwhelming display of power lurked a profound, almost paralyzing fear. A deep obsession with the terrifying, unknowable mysteries of the life that comes after. To the ancient Egyptians, death was not a final curtain, but a dangerous magical threshold. A terrifying gauntlet filled with demons, lakes of fire, and gates guarded by monstrous serpents. To survive this brutal crossing, the physical body had to be meticulously, perfectly preserved. In dimly lit tents, skilled embalmers extracted organs, packing the empty shell with drying salts. Wrapped tightly in hundreds of yards of linen, the mummy became a sacred, magical artifact. But a preserved body was useless without the ultimate, terrifying trial of the soul. In the Hall of Two Truths, the deceased stood trembling before Osiris, the green-skinned lord of the underworld. Here, the ultimate judgment took place, an agonizing moment suspended in eternal time. The human heart, heavy with the sins of a lifetime, was placed upon a golden, unyielding scale, counterbalanced by the feather of Ma'at, the delicate, weightless symbol of truth and harmony. If the heart was heavier than the feather, a monstrous beast, Amet, waited in the shadows to devour it. But if the scale balanced perfectly, the soul was granted access to the field of reeds, an eternal paradise, a mirror image of Egypt itself, bathed in forever golden, dying sunlight. For thousands of years, this unbreakable belief system held the greatest empire on earth together. But no empire, no matter how favored by the gods, can outlast the brutal march of time. As centuries bled into one another, the undeniable cracks in the foundation began to show. Wealth brought corruption, power invited betrayal, and the borders grew weak and vulnerable. Foreign conquerors, the Nubians, the Persians, the Greeks, tore away pieces of the wounded kingdom. The old magic, whispered in dusty, forgotten temples, slowly lost its grip on the people. And then, roughly 2,000 years ago, the final devastating blow arrived from across the sea. The ruthless mechanical war machine of Rome cast its long, dark shadow over the Nile. Cleopatra, the last brilliant, tragic queen, tried to outmaneuver fate, but the gods had turned their backs. With her final, desperate breath, the unbroken line of the pharaohs was severed forever. Egypt, once the absolute center of the universe, was reduced to a mere province, feeding a foreign empire. The sacred temples were slowly abandoned, their hieroglyphs becoming an unrecognizable dead language. The desert winds howled, sweeping relentless oceans of sand over the fallen monuments of gods. Yet, even in its twilight, the majesty of ancient Egypt refused to be completely silenced. The pyramids stood resolute, defiant sentinels, watching empires rise and inevitably crumble. Their staggering silhouettes, etched against the burning sky, continue to mock our fleeting mortality. 2 millennia have passed since the last pharaoh surrendered the throne to the dust of history. But listen closely to the whispering desert winds, and you can still hear the beating heart of eternity. For ancient Egypt never truly died. It simply transcended into an immortal, unforgettable myth